Okay, so today we are going to discuss two things. We're first going to go through the introduction to slope, which should be a review for you, but I just want to go through and make sure you understand slope before we move on to parallel and perpendicular lines. So whenever dealing with slope, the letter M is always used to represent slope. So whenever you're given 2 points on a line, you may find the slope using the formula y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Also, you may see the little triangle right here, which tells you it's the change in y divided by the change in x, which is the same as just subtracting the y's and subtracting the x's. So, when you have 2 points, you have x1, y1, and then you have x2, y2. Keep in mind your slope formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So my y2 is 19, so I'll write 19 minus y1, which is 7, so minus 7. Then I go and find my x2, so x2 is 5 minus my x1, which is 3. So 19 minus 7 is 12. And then 5 minus 3 is 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay? So I want you to try this one on your own. And once you do that, you need to pause the video and show me. So I'm going to write the slope formula on the screen now, and then you need to solve it, and then you need to pause it and show it to me. So don't forget, slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So figure out the answer, show me, then you can continue on with the video. Now, it says, what if the numerator is 0? If the numerator is 0, then your slope equals 0. But if ever you have 0 in the denominator, then your slope is undefined. So if you're given an equation of a line, there are two ways to find the slope and the y-intercept. Right now, I'm not even focused about the slope. My main focus is I'm not even focused about y-intercept. My main focus is the slope. So we're not even going to deal with this today. So whenever you have an equation, your slope is always, 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 always the number with x. But you also need to make sure that y is by itself. So once again, slope is always the number with x. So when looking at this equation, the number that is with x is 3. So therefore, my slope equals 3. And that's it. So there are times where you need to get y by itself, because we always want the equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. So right now, y is not by itself, and we need to get it by itself. So I have 3x plus 5y equals 10. The first thing that we need to move is the 3x. And the only way to move it is the opposite, and currently is positive, so the opposite is minus, so minus 3x on both sides. Cancels out over here, so we are left with 5y equals, now when we get to the other side, 10 and negative 3x cannot go together. You cannot write that 10 minus 3x is 7. That is not true, because 3 has an x, 10 does not. So we always want to keep them separated. So it's just going to be negative 3x plus 10. I wanted to move my 3x in the front so it can look similar to the slope-intercept form in x being in the front. Lastly, we need to get y by itself, so the next thing we need to move is 5. Now 5y means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide everything by 5. So when we are done, we're left with y equals negative 3 over 5x plus 2. So when figuring out what our slope is always the number with x. So our slope is negative 3 over 5. Slope equals negative 3 over 5. This would be your answer. Now, there are times, not times, well, yeah, there are times where you might just want to do a shortcut instead of going through all of that work that I just did to get y by itself. So a easier way to do that, instead of trying to get y by itself, is just doing negative a divided by b. That gives you your slope. So let me show you what that looks like. If you have an equation, you always label A, B, C. A is always the number in front of x, B is always the number in front of y, and C is always the number that's by itself. So keep in mind from the previous slide, your slope is negative A divided by B. So according to the equation above, A is 8, B is 11, and it says negative a, so I'm going to put a negative in front of my 8. And negative 8 over 11 is my slope. And we're done. That was a lot easier than getting y by itself. So now, I want you, I don't want you to try this one yet. For this one, it's not in the form of ax plus by equals c. And we need to rewrite it to where it does look like this. So when having this equation, x and y are on the same side. So I just need to take 2y. I just need to take 2y and move it over here to the other side. So the only way to move that, let me rewrite it. 2y plus 14. Only way to move it is to the opposite. So currently is positive. So we need to subtract 2y from both sides. So that's canceled out over there. We cannot put x and y together, so we're going to keep them separated. So negative 6x minus 2y equals 14. So when trying to find our slope, remember A, B, C. So slope equals negative A over B. Currently, A is negative 6, B is negative 2. But right here, I'm supposed to put another negative in front of A. Just because it's already a negative 6 doesn't mean I forget about making the whole thing negative. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So I have positive 6 divided by negative 2. So 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. So that is our slope. Now, the last few slides should have been review. So it should have been easier for you to understand because those are topics you did in maybe around 7th or 8th grade. So the main topic now is parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines are always lines that never intersect, they never touch. They're just going to stay next to each other all the time. So the first question says, what is the slope of the red line? If you remember, with slope on a graph, you have to do rise over run. So pick 2 points. So a rise 1 and a run 2. So 1 over 2. My slope is 1/2. The next question says, what is the slope of the blue line? So once again, I pick 2 points on my line. So I have to go up 1 and then to the right 2. So 1 over 2 as well. So parallel lines have the what type of slope? Parallel lines have the same slope. That is very important to remember. Parallel lines have the same slope. I repeat, parallel lines have the same slope. So you have to determine if the lines are parallel. So automatically over here, y is by itself. So we could say, hey, the slope is negative 1/3 for that one. But for the other one, y is not by itself. So keep in mind, we can label A, B, C, and slope is negative A divided by B. So A is 2. So negative A, so negative 2 over B, which is 6. Now, whenever dealing with fractions, you always want to simplify your fractions. So if I simplify this, this becomes negative 1 over 3. So if you look at the slopes, are they the same? Negative 1/3, negative 1/3. Yes, they are the same. So therefore, they are parallel. These are parallel lines because the slopes are the same. Now with this one, I want you to give it a try and determine if the lines associated with these equations are parallel. Complete it, write it down, show it to me before you move on. So pause it, solve it, show it to me. Here's another one. I need you to solve it and show it to me. If you need me to label, I will. A, B, C. I even give you a little formula. But I need you to pause the video, solve it, show it to me. Now, perpendicular lines. When dealing with perpendicular lines, we should all know those are two lines that intersect that make a right angle. Always, always, always. So the first question says, what is the slope of the red line? So if I pick 2 points, I'm going to pick this one and this one. So I'll go up 1. Now I have to go over to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is, and since my line is going down like that, that means negative. So negative 1 over 4. Now moving on, the next question says, what is the slope of the blue line? So dealing with the blue line, I'm going to choose 2 points here. And uh-oh, not there, here. So I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1. So my slope for that is 4 over 1, or just 4. So the next question says, perpendicular lines have what type of slope? So if you look at it, the first one is negative 1 over 4. The second one is positive 4 over 1. And we call this negative reciprocals. I don't think you can see that. Let's try that again. So basically, I'm going to say opposite reciprocals. Okay, so that means reciprocal means you flip upside down and the signs are opposite. Let me say it again. Reciprocal means you flip it upside down and the signs are opposite. So what that looks like for this one, the slope is 2 over 5. So when determining the slope for a line that's perpendicular, I first do the reciprocal, so I flip it upside down, which is 5 over 2, and then change the sign. So the slope of the perpendicular line to a line that's 2 over 5 is negative 5 over 2. Looking at the next example, my slope is negative 1/5. So first, flip it upside down. So that becomes 5 over 1. And then change the sign. So it's just going from negative to positive. So 5 over 1 is just basically 5. Looking at this last one, negative 2 is my slope. If you don't know, another way to write negative 2 is negative 2 over 1. So if I flip it upside down, that becomes 1/2. And I'm going to have it be positive because I do the opposite sign. So it started out as negative, and then opposite of that is positive. So I want you to determine if these two sets of equations are perpendicular. So solve it and show it to me. So you need to pause the video, answer the two questions, and then show it to me. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and let me know.